Welcome to Electrolysis Unplugged, an after-hours chat beyond the probe with Joanie and Stephanie. We're here to dive deep into the world of electrolysis, education, and all things hair removal.
Whether you're a seasoned professional or just curious about the art of permanent hair removal, we've got the insights, tips, and fun stories to keep you plugged in.
So grab your tools, take a seat, and let's get into it. This is Electrolysis Unplugged, brought to you by the Electrology Education Coalition.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Just dive into it, Stephanie?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I'll start with our first submitted question. Okay, so is there an easy way, like an app or a website, to look up medications to find out which ones have contraindications? I spend a lot of time trying to research client med lists, and then I'm still not feeling confident I didn't miss something. Or I'll ask for a doctor's note for heat sensitivity or high blood pressure, for example, and I've had the doctor respond that it's not a concern and won't provide a note. I'm just looking for something more factual without having to scour the internet for each medication that clients list.
That's a great question. So, big and short of the answer on my end, as a laser practitioner, FDA.gov has a sun in your medicine list. That's kind of like my go-to when it comes to photosensitive medications. And photosensitive medications usually tell me how the heat's going to react in someone's skin. Outside of that, usually your contraindications aren't necessarily medicinal, with the exception of like those photosensitives. Sorry, not medicinal. Those contraindications aren't medicinal, with the exception of photosensitives. It's usually what's happening behind the scenes. It is your medical implant devices. It is your nervous disorders. I could go through a big list, and I'm not going to do that all right now. But like, it is those. So I guess the bigger answer would be yes, there are lists out there. I turn to the FDA.gov one because it tends to be the most up-to-date list for photosensitive medications. Outside of that, I turn to approval from the patient's doctor. If the patient's doctor is okay with them having galvanic and or thermolysis, I just tell them the megahertz of the machine. They bring that to their doctor and usually get a yes or no from the doc.
Yeah, and I think when we were talking about it just before, my biggest note is like not to get too bogged down looking up every single drug that exists. I think that it's more important to understand what the drug is for and how whatever disease or disorder the patient has affects the outcome of the treatment. So there's a lot of different meds out there for high blood pressure. It's not necessarily the med itself that is going to be of concern so much as the high blood pressure. And same thing with diabetes and, with anything else, it's not so much the med. We kind of talked about some meds, sure, like Accutane, but usually those we talk about over and over and over again, like how Accutane is an issue and acne is not really, but like Accutane is. So that's more of a med specific thing. I wouldn't spend too much time, splitting hairs over different meds. I usually, what I do is I ask the client, what is this med for? And they'll say, oh, that's for my high blood pressure. Okay. What's this one for? Oh, it's for diabetes. Okay. I'm not looking it up. I'll just ask what it is. And I think that that's enough, honestly.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a good cover your butt moment. Like, it's good to have the information just in case someone were to ever come back. You've compiled their medical history that could pertain to any adverse reactions of electrolysis. There is no, and this is like the go back to our conversation last week about research and studies in recent years. There is no research in recent studies, which is part of what E2C will be moving towards in the bigger picture, because a lot of times when we say, oh, go back to your doctor and get a doctor's note, the doctor has no idea what we do. And even then they're kind of like, sure. Or yeah, I don't know what that is, so no. Right? The physician's desk reference. Oh, yes. Eileen. So PDR.net is amazing. Physician's desk reference is also a really cool one. But it goes back to the same thing, right? So like you have like your FDA site, you have WebMD, you have physician's desk reference. I would say go with physician's desk reference or FDA before WebMD, because WebMD is not as accurate in everything that it does, and everybody's dying at the minute they read on WebMD. I'm like, get off. But yeah, those are things that I think that are really important to know, but not necessarily stop you from treatment.
Mhm.
Remember diuretics are diuretics, right? They're going to dry somebody out. Um, Medications that help with cell turnover. So that means they're going to have a difference in how their skin responds.
Mhm. Yeah, so it just kind of comes down to understanding like the general effects of different types of medications and classes of medications, not so much understanding the whole, chemical composition of each drug. That's, I think, outside of what you really need to know.
Yeah.
And you'll drive yourself crazy in the meantime.
Hmm.
Okay, so I have another question here that says, do you use insulated probes in your practice? I have noticed that when I use them, some tissue always sticks to the probe, so I need to clean it with tweezers more often. And hair doesn't release that well, so I switched to stainless steel. It doesn't happen with stainless steel or gold probes, only with insulated. Skin surface reaction and healing process is normal with both probes, no signs of overtreatment like big scabbing or scarring.
So yes, long and short, yes, I do use insulated probes in my practice when I'm doing thermolysis, primarily. I'll use insulated blend within the Protex as well if I'm trying to give a little bit more protection to the epidermis. Um, uh, that's I hate saying it like this, but it's simply that you're just overcooking the follicle. If
Yeah, I was
tissue,
going to say, let's talk about what does it mean when you're cooking, when there's debris on the probe? What's
it's
happening there?
you're simply cooking the skin or the inside of the follicle to the probe.
And that
You're cooking
happens from too
like
much intensity. Yeah.
too much intensity. So if you're seeing that, and it's kind of like a reoccurring issue, pull back your intensity, elongate your time, and see if you can start to balance back the other way. Because the insulated probe is beneficial for thermolysis. And I wouldn't say that it's as a blend operator as well. Like, I wouldn't say that it's my favorite to do blend with an insulated probe. Because remember that surface area where we're creating our chemical reaction is less, right? But for thermolysis, you shouldn't have so much energy that's happening and you're cooking that tissue to it. Um, you also have to remember, like Joanie and I talked about this previously, I think in one of our classes, where when you are cooking an egg, okay, and you heat that pan up and you throw that egg on there, you get a fried egg, right? And you also get egg that sticks to the pan, right? If you've done nothing to prep that, if you've done nothing to protect that, there's no, for example, in cooking, like there's no Teflon coating. It is it is a nonstick pan that you just stuck material to. The same thing happens within your follicle. So you heat that up real quick, and yeah, it's going to happen. And sometimes we forget when we're doing thermolysis in itself that we bring up that energy to compensate for the coverage area
Mhm.
sometimes. And then what ends up happening is it didn't build the way you wanted it to. It cooked instead.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much, when you're comparing a stainless steel to an insulated probe, you're talking about reducing the surface area that's exposed because the Teflon or whatever material you use covers, a good portion of the probe. If you don't adjust your setting when you do that switch, so if you were used to, let's say, I'm just going to arbitrary number here, like chin 6, okay, just a preset, um, include time and intensity of whatever you want. If you are always doing chin 6 and you were using a stainless steel probe, and then you decide to try an insulated probe one day and you just switch the probe, but you're still on chin 6, you didn't change anything on the machine. What you're going to find is that you could end up with blowouts and debris stuck to the probe and things like that. And then you would wonder, why is it doing this? Well, because all those electrons that were flowing down my wire that had all this space on my stainless steel probe are now crammed into a tiny little surface area. And usually I'll kind of say, then it comes out like a bomb. And when you're heating up the tissues to that degree, it's like if I try to cook my egg on, high, high flame on my stove. Sure, it's going to cook it, but it's going to be stuck to the pan, right? Most of the time we have to just kind of cook it slowly. And so there's a balance. And if you're not taking into consideration that you have to adjust based on surface area of your probe, whether that's changing size or changing insulation type, then you have issues like that. And then she says the hair doesn't come out of the follicle. Sure, it's stuck to the inside, just like my egg is stuck to my pan. So you're not only do you have debris that's now stuck on your probe, but the hair is now glued to the inside of the follicle. So forget trying to get it out. You've pretty much just overheated the follicle and it just stuck. That's kind of what's happening. So how do you fix it? Well, you have to dial it back a little bit. So that could be you're on chin 6, try chin 5, try chin 4, right? You'd be surprised sometimes how much of a difference it can make depending on the type of insulated probe you have. And then, you can also try different modality. And actually, this takes us into the second question asked by this person. And so let me pull it up right now. So when I purchased my Apple's senior device, I went to school in the UK for a masterclass course. So a masterclass, if you're not familiar with it, is usually a type of program that somebody will take that is already a licensed person. So it's going to be a short class. It's like an advanced course. I was taught that all thermolysis flash modalities do the same thing, and there's no point in switching between them. So I've learned to kill all hairs with microflash. So microflash will be a modality on an Apple's machine, more specifically, probably a junior, not a junior, a senior, like a senior 2, senior 3G. That's where we'll see those modalities. When I listen to the mentorship, I see that it's important to switch the modalities in different cases. Can you explain in what cases to use the different flash modalities? And do you agree with the statement that all modalities will do the same thing? It's just a different name.
No. I mean, okay, sorry. No. We would not create something, or not we're not engineers. They would not create something different on a machine for it to deliver the same. And this is where it's kind of funny. So Joanie, as a newer thermolysis operator, meaning like the last since 2016 as an addition to my practice, one of the big things that was a huge takeaway for me was understanding that each one of those presets on the machine has a purpose. One of my favorite things I got out of my original class was the book and the training videos. And then obviously like meeting with an instructor to kind of play with each one and learning the differences of why we select them. Now, when I went to school for electrolysis, stuff was still dials. I didn't go to when I trained for electrolysis, side chair. It was all dials. And you did have buttons, but your buttons were to switch from modality to modality, not to change your settings. And I was very much like a manual operator. And coming into something with presets was like, and I still will say that presets aren't people, right? And so presets are a starting point towards efficacy, but that starting point has to be within the ranges, right? And so when I think back to my old dial machine, one of the big things that I would think about is understanding that like on a peach fuzz style hair, I was not going to be using the same blend back then that I would use on a terminal hair. And it's not all the same. You are using your energy vastly different based on the material or the problem in front of you. Let's call it that. So when I think of like, and I'm going to use Apple's for this example, but I can do the same thing for like a Silhouette Tone S2250 if anybody has that. Same thing for a Gentronics. When I'm thinking about those things, like in your flash modalities on a pro or a pure, okay? Pico, mellow, multi, synchro. Am I missing anybody?
No.
No. Okay. So I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pico, peach fuzz, right? You're not dealing with a beard hair on peach fuzz. And what's funny is I have met people that they've never moved outside of peach fuzz and all they treat is beards. Not peach fuzz, Pico. Multiplex, that's manual thermolysis. That is like the best way is I say multiplex for me is if I have a contraindication in blend, okay, but I still want that slow build with some pulses that I would have gotten from my blend modality, I'm going to pick multiplex. Okay. Mellow flash for me, that is basically pulsed current for accelerated vellus to terminal hair, depending on the moisture gradient of the skin. And then synchro is prime hair is ready to go. Okay. And they're all terminal. Can you do energy changes to all of them? Sure.
Could you please repeat what you said about thermolysis? You said something after that that I didn't catch. Thermolysis is for terminal.
Oh, not thermolysis. Synchro is for
Okay, synchro, yeah.
terminal. Terminal growth. And could you do lighter stuff? Absolutely. But it's not, it's your energy you're putting out is not in that as well. So that's how my takeaway from that. Now, mind you, Appleus was one of the machines that was like newer into my practice in the last decade. Silhouette Tone has the same thing. You have your basically on Silhouette Tone, you have ranges of heat on your energy. So they don't necessarily call it EL like we do on Appleus. They would call it thermo or therm. Okay. And that would be like your 0 to 10 is your vellus. Your 10 to 20 is your accelerated vellus. Your 20 to 30 is your extreme terminal hair. Those ratios are not the same thermolysis across the board. You are selecting them based on the material in front of you. So that's my big takeaway.
You know, a lot of it when it comes to understanding, like if you're going to choose this modality versus another, and in what case, it kind of comes with understanding time and intensity and how those heating patterns change depending on a pulse that is, let's say, quick timing, high intensity versus a pulse that is longer timing, lower intensity. And that's what those thermolysis modalities give you. It's a range of different ways to mix time and intensity. So on the pico side of things or the microflash side of things, your timing is really, really fast and the heat is very high. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the opposite. Timing is slower and the heat is lower. And so I guess to answer the question, we always talk about cooking, but like, let me ask you this. Is every preset on your oven the same? Does it matter how I cook my steak? I could do it in slow cooking or broil it. Does it make a difference? I mean, yes, right? There is a difference, right? So there's like certain meats or certain things that cook better slow cooked. There's certain things that you broil, right? So it's the same thing when we're dealing with different types of hairs and different types of areas, vellus accelerated or terminal. There's a better approach for it. I kind of joke with some of the students. I tell them when I started electrolysis, I had an SX500. It's a discontinued machine, but it's similar to like the senior machine. And I didn't, with time and with doing more education, I learned more about these things. And so it's normal when you're kind of at the beginning that it doesn't make much sense, like it just doesn't. I joke that I had that machine, I turned it on, it was on thermolysis, and I never changed it. Because why would I, right? Can you remove everything with just one modality? Probably, yeah, but is it the best thing that you can do? No. I think that you could be a better electrologist if you adapt each session that you do to the case that's in front of you. So, yeah, okay, you could probably remove the underarm hair using Pico. I could find a setting in multiplex. I could find a setting in mellow, and I could find it in synchro. I could switch to the blends and probably do the same thing too. But there is in that particular moment one better one. Not best, because there might be like a couple different approaches and also personal favorites, so there's a lot of different things that you could do. And so with time, I think that you kind of learn. I made some pretty long training videos on the Appleus machines. They're free on YouTube. Just literally Google like senior 3G machine training. And that machine training will apply to the SX500. It will apply to the Senior 2, the Senior 3G. Some differences, but use your brain. If you're kind of looking to learn more about the different modalities, I talk about all of them. Then the platinum, I did one for the platinum. It's a discontinued machine now, but it's on there anyway because people are still using it. And I did one for the XL Pure, which if you have the Pro, same thing, you know, I just didn't do the management system. But I mean, start there. You know, when you have a machine, you want to make sure that you know what the features are and when you could use them. After that, with time and with practice, I think that you get more comfortable using these different things, and maybe it will take more than one time you like listening and hearing, you know, use this for that until you actually kind of really figure out how to do it well. So
There's
I think that,
I'll
you know,
open that up and I learned something new.
well, yeah, and it's
Forgot.
you know, when you're doing an advanced education course, it's kind of a disservice when, you know, you're not maximizing the use of the machinery. You know, if it was useless, then why not just go back to a machine with two knobs and call it a day?
Mhm.
You know,
True.
so at that point.
Hannah, a lot of times when she asks like, why do they discontinue certain machines? She has an SX 500 as well. It comes down to they find a new way to deliver energy, and in doing so, they move into that new technology, and it's a lot of money for an engineering side of things to still have all those different things still available. And so they basically kind of max it out over
They
time,
focus, yeah.
and then they focus on the new technology. And that's really it comes down to they're working for us to find us new and better ways to work those hairs into oblivion. Can we still work with, like, I have museum machines. Okay, could I still turn on a lot of those museum machines? Absolutely. Do I want to? No. Right? I don't want to, because that would be me moving, not that your
Backwards.
machine is bad, like in that say, like, or old, but like we don't want to move backwards. We want to progress, because this electrolysis is a science. Um, it is a study of, you know, coagulating the bottom 2/3 of that follicle, whether it be chemical or heat. I mean, like, you are doing substantial damage, and that changes as the science advances. That's also why, like, this is where you hear me. I love the Hinkle book. I got Hinkle, or not, I don't have Hinkle tattooed on my shoulder, but I have the hair puller tattooed on my arm. I love that old text. It is my red Bible, okay? But it was written in 1958. It is not the same science of today. The same thing happens with our machines. And so as much as I love that, I like it to like understand the basic foundations, our very first textbook in the field, but that is not the material that we use now today to go through those things. The same comments about like utilizing those different modalities, the same thing happens in the blend world. I know that some of you have like the ST250, and I'm going to use this as an example just because Silhouette Tone has a pretty solid blend background. The ST250 has like short blend, soft blend, uni blend, pulse blend. Each one of those is meant to deliver a different result. And it should all be played with. And this is where you hear my teacher brain come on. And it's not to sound condescending, but we have to use critical thinking when we get to our machines. It cannot be walk up to the machine and whatever it's set at is what you're using for the day. Because you could severely harm somebody, right? You could burn out your machine. You could just not be using it to its maximum, right? And so I don't want you guys to think that I'm not saying that you don't critically think, but in those spaces, when someone says, oh, they're all the same, they are not doing what you should be doing as an electrologist to encourage their mind to find the best tool in that space. I crochet, okay? I do not use the same size hook for all of my crochet projects. Why? Because everything would look wonky if I was going for a tight loop or a thin loop, okay? We're not doing that. It's fine until it does. Yeah.
So yeah, Hannah asked if it was still okay to use her SX500. Of course,
Heck yeah, friend.
use it
Like-
until it just gives its last putt, and then go ahead and, you know, change up. Or you can end up just using it as a backup, and you buy, you know, the newest technology. That's always kind of a good way to upgrade is, you keep that machine, it works, old faithful, right? But you can end up buying the newest technology and then or a newer machine, and then you just keep that machine as a backup. You never know.
Yeah. Last year I had one of my girls, her machine was down for about 3 months.
Mm.
And she didn't have a backup, and she had to cancel and continue canceling and continue canceling, because she had no machine. And
Mhm.
so I always say, like, you will never see Stephanie with one of something. I will not that I hoard, but well, maybe machines. But like it's there's a reason we have backups.
Sure is. We were just talking about me having to donate my stool to the school, and I realized after a full 8-hour day that was a big mistake. I hated every minute of that day with all the other stools that are not my favorite, because I find them uncomfortable. Like, everybody in my office kind of uses something a little different because they have their thing that they like. So whether it's that, like the BQE saddle seat, or it's a different type of like larger ergonomic seat. And I have mine that I like to work on, that I'm comfortable on. And so I didn't think it was going to be as big of a deal as it was, until I had a full day. And I think I went through 3 different styles of stools that I had around my office. As soon as somebody left for the day, I went and took their stool, just to be able to get through another hour, and then just counting the seconds until my day was done. So you find out the hard way that, like, some of these things that are just like, perfect,
Mhm.
make sure that you're keeping them in good working order, and make sure that you have a backup somewhere, somehow, because if it breaks, you will cry.
I have 3 pairs of loupes, and the very reason I have 3 pairs of loupes is I had a client accidentally hit the edge of my loupes and tumble my prismatics to the ground, and a prism, like, that means your mirrors are off, right? So you can't see. And I had to go back to my Galilean, and I was like,
Oh. Have you
it
ever had to go back to a mag lamp? I think
oh,
I
Yes.
yeah.
quit for the day. I was like,
Ugh.
that's it. I'm done. I'm going home. I'm done.
I
Not
have
doing
a
it.
picture that I got pictures to show the differences between me using a mag lamp and me
Oh
using,
no. Yeah.
and it was like, I look like a troll. I'm, like, underneath your
Like
bridge.
a little,
Give me your
you're a
hand.
gremlin, yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I can't do it anymore. There's a lot of things that in the beginning I just had these little loops they were on my face, but they had no working distance because they were not that kind of adjustable. I think my working distance must have been like this. And so, first of all, I also didn't wear face masks back then. And so I can't believe that it was that close to people's faces.
Yeah.
But also, it was just horrid for the position. And the last time that I had to get my loop serviced and I had to switch to something, that just wasn't the right fit, I think I was actually in Kuala Lumpur at a conference, and I dropped my glasses. They fell and they hit the corner of the treatment bed, and the lens popped out. And so they were done. And those were Univets. I had to send them back to Italy, but I had to send them to North America from Indonesia, and then from there they had to send it to Italy, and I was like, but I'm right here. Can I save 3 weeks? It
Oh,
was horrible.
yeah. I don't think I'll ever go back to a mag lamp, but there was this one that was really cool that I did use with my Galilean, that the lamp itself was one piece, and then the lens you could flip.
Mm.
So, like, you could tilt it. The thing was bomb.com. Like, I'm not gonna lie. But, like, I would do that to double up so I could sit far enough away and have the extra magnification. And then I realized I was doing it all the time. I'm like, "Oh, I think I need new mags." Like, it was a rough moment of aging for my eyeballs that I had to face the facts.
Yeah, Eileen said she has 2 pairs of loops. One time she forgot them at school. She had to use the mag lamp, and she's like, nope, reschedule. Yeah. I'm sick.
Yep.
Yeah, no
Oh
way.
my gosh. It's okay to be a diva at this. Like, these are our tools.
Yes.
When I first started doing electrolysis, I was doing a lot of blend, and I always used to wear like street clothes to work. So, like, my skin was touching my client's skin, and I burned a lye burn on my chin because my mag lamp was metal. And so I had a contact point, and I was also a contact point on the lamp. And so I had a little chemical burn here for like a good long time, little brown spot.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Today, we want to shine some light on some of our amazing partners who are helping shape the future of electrology education, services, distribution, and so much more. We're thrilled to have such amazing partners and supporters. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned professional, these vendors and schools have what you need to succeed. The North American distributor of ballet needles and Instantronics is none other than Synoptic Products. Every electrologist knows that precision matters. Ballet needles are designed for just that, offering unparalleled accuracy and comfort for both the practitioner and the patient. Instantronics is known for the smoothest hair removal experience, and distributors who are enthusiastically moving towards innovative experiences with their new ownership under Dr. Sarah Paisner, Instantronics, formerly known as Instantron, is making strides towards innovative experiences in electrology epilators. You can ensure that your practice not only remains clean, safe, and compliant, but on the leading edge of technology and innovation. A must-have for every electrology clinic. Visit synopticproducts.com to learn more. Elevate your practice with Silhouette Tone. Known worldwide for their advanced equipment and sleek designs, from epilators to treatment tables, lasers, and more, they provide a gold standard in comfort and performance. Your clients deserve the best, and the Silhouette Tone delivers. Head over to silhouettetone.us to learn more. That's Silhouette Tone, SILHOUETTONE.US to learn more.
Hey there, electrologists. My name is Hazel Bloom. I'm a life coach for the LGBTQIA+ community and its allies. As a trans woman, I have done the hard work and introspection to figure out who I am, what I want from life, and how to live authentically as myself. These are universal skills that I can teach you and help you gain the confidence to thrive. Also, I know that the conversations with clients on the table can get a bit intense and beyond the scope of electrology, so I'd invite you to refer them to me so they can get the support they need through a tough time instead of taking that burden on yourself. I'm also available as a resource for you if you just need some assistance figuring out how to help a client or to ask any questions. Whatever you need, I can help. My website is kiwifruitcoaching.com, or you can email me directly, hazel@kiwifruitcoaching.com.
Thanks for tuning in to Electrolysis Unplugged. Be sure to check out our amazing sponsors for the best in electrology tools, training, technology, and so much more. Now, back to the show.
Okay, so Jocelyn asks, I'm relatively new to loupes. Do you guys have a favorite brand, and what makes them your favorite? A lot of people go for weight. I think that's a pretty important thing when you're looking at mag lamps or mag lights. What am I saying? No, magnifying glasses, the loupes, the weight, because you're going to be wearing them for 8, sometimes more hours a day. And so the weight on the nose can be pretty intense.
Yeah.
So,
And the back of your ears.
yeah. So that's a big one. Obviously, when we're talking about loupes, I'm talking about ones that you can customize the working distance. That's one of the biggest sells. If you can't customize a working distance, even if it's like, what's that company? Rose glasses?
Oh,
You
it's
know,
Rose
like the
Medical.
AEAs had them. Yeah, Rose Medical. The AEAs had them a few years in a row. They don't do custom where they measure you, but they sell like loupes that are already pre-made for certain distances. So at the very least, you can kind of like buy something a little cheaper that has maybe like a 16, 18-inch working distance, which is usually about where people sit. So weight, obviously customizability of your working distance, I think is an important thing. I have a light on mine. I think that my first pair, I didn't get the light. My now pair has a light, and when my light dies, which is kind of rare, but when it dies and I've had to use my mag lamp, I've noticed that the light is not strong enough. So I think that you should get the light. Then I've seen some students that get, and this may be not a popular opinion, but in my opinion, the new ones that they have that go down like this, not my favorite. Not my favorite. I don't think that it's made for our field.
No.
I think that it's made for dentists where the person's head is literally in your lap. And
Mhm.
so then the angle of the glasses happens to hit perfectly where the person's mouth is.
Mhm.
But we tend to scope a larger surface area. And so what I've noticed a lot is that the students that end up getting those glasses, when you're working, let's say like on a chest and you have to look on the other side or the bikini line, like the other side of the bikini, the area furthest away from you, you're like this. So
Yeah.
now they're hyperextended with their head up in the air because of that angle. So I've seen these pop up. Every company, every brand has had these new like
Mhm.
little L-shaped glasses, and I think that it's not. I don't think it's good. I think that's my opinion at least. So maybe
If
somebody
all
has
you ever did was
swear by it,
eyebrows and
but
upper lips, I'd
sure.
say.
Yeah, if you don't move from the face, perfect.
But outside of that, it's so funny because Pauline and I were talking about this a couple months ago when we first started our mentorship hour. So I went and tried on one of my students, and if you are bustier or have more front, you're going to be looking at the front of you, not the front of your patient. I tried my students on. I was like, whoa, no, thank you. So that was an interesting little find as well. So you don't really have a lot outwards. They can't adjust that. I have had design for vision,
Mm.
ultralight optics, and now I have Q optics. Um, ultralight, I did not like their light source. Um, and the glasses were heavier. So while I like the magnification, I did not like how that felt on my bridge. Okay. My ultralights are probably my favorite because they're not ultralight. My Q optics are probably my favorite because they are incredibly light. Um, and so that is a big thing for me. As a glasses wearer, I don't necessarily want to have that digging into my nose bridge all day. But with that, I would recommend having a strap on the back of your head because those need to be in the right spot. If they're sliding down your nose, I mean, you guys will see me do this all the time. And when I get tired of it, you'll see me put them on top of my head. But like one of the things is like you're doing that constantly if you don't have that strap back there. It has to be locked in.
Oh, they're too heavy for, even if they're not heavy, there's too much going on up front. You have to strap them in for sure.
Yes. And also if you're spending, $2,000 to $3,000 on a pair of glasses, put a band on them. Like trust me, that's an investment of like $5 to save your
Mhm.
glasses in case something goes fly. Design for Vision was my very first brand. I like them. They were good as a starting point as a brand new person. They were very expensive, but at the time, that was like all that we had. But they are heavy. Like when I say their glasses are heavy, that is a headache at the end of the day heavy. Um, and that's kind of why I haven't gone to oroscopic because of how big those tubes look for that.
I have oroscopics. Those are actually my main working glasses.
Are
I
they
started
heavy?
with Univet. No, I don't really feel them. In the
Okay.
beginning, it might have burned a little, like that burn you get right underneath the little pins, but
Mhm.
that went away. I don't feel them anymore. So
Good.
it hasn't been an issue. I have Q optics here at the school. That's the pair I leave here. And my old ones, my Univets. What's funny is that every pair, the distance gets a little bit longer. It's like I've been like slowly like uncrimping from my hunched over position.
Yes.
It took a while to get to the right distance, but I use the oroscopics. I think Univet had some of the clearest like magnification. Their image is really good. Um, my oroscopics are pretty good. I think the Q optics, I tend to feel like maybe the area is a little too small for me.
Yeah,
And there's like a lot of like extra like noise around the outside, which I don't feel I have with the oroscopics.
interesting. I need to put a pair of oroscopic on my nose bridge. That's really what it comes down to. I just gotta like feel it on my face because I see those and I'm like, those are huge. Like those got to be
Mhm.
heavy. But if they're not, if they
Just it
don't,
depends. I mean, Q optics are lighter, don't get me wrong. Like they are definitely um kind of pretty good leaders as far as like weight for the loupes. I was
um,
gonna maybe have them come for the seminar. I forget who approached me, but like we have at the school, we have Surgitel that comes in, we have Q Optics that comes in. design for vision every once in a while, oroscoptics. We have like 4 or 5 different vendors that tend to come in to show the students.
There is a second question. I'm going to keep this one anonymous. Someone had been using a Sterex. They are wanting, they have an Spectrum Elite. And the modalities are pretty high tech by differences between the two. I'm going to just make a general statement here. One, Sarah Paisner, Dr. Paisner, who we had a couple weeks ago, is the new owner of Instantron, and they have a new person working through the manual to get us to understand it better, because we've never had that before with Instantron. It was kind of like, this operator says to use it this way, and so we all went and did it, right? So I don't think that this is going to be a long-term issue, because Sarah has a new engineer kind of like working through any of the hiccups that they faced on previous technology, as well as getting a better understanding of how to set your machine. So I do agree that like it was almost too basic, in the sense of like, you gave me a high-tech machine with no description on how to use it, in the sense of like all of my options to change. So that is changing. I would say give yourself about, especially you'll start to kind of play with your settings as well. Give yourself about 6 months or so of playing that, but like in that time, Sarah is actively in the process of changing that. I talked to her when I was in Canada a couple weeks ago, and it was like my biggest contention. I was like, I don't have the machines in the school right now, and the reason I didn't have the machines is I don't want to be the person to tell you how to use. I mean, I will tell you how to use your machine, but I don't want to do it off label if there is a label to be using it on. And then we can customize from there, if that makes sense. So, um,
You know,
well,
what's funny is I had tried to reach out to Skip and to really like, I think I did you, Stephanie, and I talked to Kelly because we have a couple Instantrons, and I was just like, I want just a couple like of starting points for time and intensity for a
mhm,
fine hair, a medium hair, a coarse, and extra coarse. I just need 4. And
yeah,
then I can bridge the gap in between. But like, what do people use to remove a fine hair on that machine? You know, like I just saw a post. Skip kind of jumped on a post this week, and it
mm,
was somebody posting like, I'm using 2/10 and this intensity, and I was like, 2/10? I haven't even gone above 1/10 yet. I was
yeah.
like, so
It's a pretty hot machine.
it gets kind of hot. Yeah, exactly. So then I'm like, okay, so when are you using that? You know, so that's where like there's it's just so like, I don't know, figure it out. And that was pretty much what they came down to. It was like, well, figure it out. It's like, I guess I could. I don't really want to though. So, you know,
Especially
I
when you
just
take
want a
science.
couple things, and it's for the students too, you know, like because I'm like, I'm just gonna write down some starting points,
Mhm,
laminate this, put it on the machine because they need to like, and then trying to figure out how to set cataphoresis on that thing. You know, you're just pressing 17 million buttons to try to just kind of like get the thing switched over. I mean, I figured it out, but then we're like, it's like hieroglyphics in the book. So we're trying to figure out like, okay, do this, press there. Oh, not fast enough. We missed the time. Like if we try to put it on flash on 0.05,
mhm,
you know, do you know how long it took us like 3 days to figure that out? Actually, a student came and was like, oh, I figured it out. And it was like, we weren't fast enough
right.
pressing the flash button, you know, so just stuff like that that
Yeah,
was a
it's
little
little
bit
things.
frustrating. But yeah, hopefully Sarah's gonna fix that. That's gonna be nice.
And the second part of the question that was asked is like, should I invest in another machine? What would I recommend? Something with presettings? And so here's the deal, like, because I am a machine hog, um, all of the machines will get the job done. You need to find a machine that has good customer service that you can get in your hands, that you can communicate to like their engineers to understand the background of it. It's important to have a conversation with whoever their trainer is. Uh, at our school, we have, an Appleus, we have a Gentronics, we have silhouette tone machines. And each one of those, I did just that, right? My Appleus, I trained with Joanie. My Gentronics, I trained with Jim back in the day. My silhouette tone, I'm training with Vicky on those ones. And not, it's more along the lines of to understand those little nuances. How to get a machine in your hands nowadays is a whole other ball game. And so depending on where you're at, and that's why I'm saying this like generally, will depend on how quickly you can get a machine. So if it's 10 months to get a new machine, for example, with some of our hardships in electrology, then, but in 6 months you might have an answer, especially if you give a call to Sarah or an email to Sarah. You might be best to keep what you have, right? Because it's a quality machine. But if you aren't willing to hold on to that, then we can definitely set you up on other machines to get in your hands quicker than that. But I think it's worth keeping, if that makes sense. It's a quality machine. So, there was a couple more other ones down there. What didn't I like about the ultralight light? It was too heavy. That's my
Funny,
funny
it's called
thing.
ultralight.
The
Isn't
cord
that their
was really
sales,
thick.
the whole sales pitch about how light the light is like something like it's like
It
5
was
grams or something like that.
It was so heavy. And it was
So funny.
bulky, and I have curly hair, so, like, this is my hair straight, right? But, the cord was so thick that when I would go to take off my glasses, if I had my hair pulled back, it would pull everything out, and then I was, like, fixing a ponytail.
Mhm.
I had 2 little dots on either side of my nose. So that was my thing. However, um, I use it as a backup. It's still there. It's not as bright as my Q Optic one. My Q Optic one, I feel like I could see from space. Like your hairs, but that's my other one. And do loops.
So Ando Loupes, they've reached out. I haven't tried their stuff, nor have I seen it. I don't know about you. And I don't know how you say that. Ando. I would say Ando Loupes. Yeah, they have reached out. They're kind of, as far as I know, like new to me at least. So I don't know how long they've been on the market, but yeah, they've reached out quite a few times. I haven't seen any of their stuff, so I don't have a comment either positive or negative.
And then Pauline said, was it the one that you wear on your neck? No, it was the one that was on the glasses itself for my loops. Fun fact about Stephanie. I love my hair down. I think it looks beautiful, but I hate stuff on my neck. And so if I feel something sitting on my neck, it literally makes my skin crawl. So usually you'll see me in a video, have my hair down, and the minute it's back on top of my head. Like, I just don't like stuff touching my neck. So I didn't get to do that one because I got no chill.
So we have another question. So brand new electrologists just starting out, what loops are best in the beginning? I mean, it's like, okay, Univet, they're heavy, what's the next level up? It's not necessarily that like Oroscoptics are level up from Univet, they're just a different brand. So to me, it's kind of a personal decision as far as what works best. Check to see what reps are even available in your area. Because I know Oroscoptics is a fairly big company, so the chances of having somebody that's like going to be responsive and able to come to you and do all this stuff is great. Think about when you're sending them for service, like with Univet. Now they have a center to fix them, I think in Carson, so that's like in LA area. But before that, like I said, I had to send the stuff out to Italy to get any kind of service done. So think about what their turnaround is for fixing stuff, how much it costs to fix your glasses if you send them out, what's got a life warranty. Like that's what I think should be your decision based on, more than just like, I don't think that one is best so much as it's just like everything's kind of got their positive and negatives.
Agreed. And I agree with what Eileen's saying. It's have those reps come into your office space, into your space, and just kind of get to know. Don't meet them at a coffee shop. Don't meet them at their place, whatever. Meet them at your office. Get to know it in your space.
There's a
For
fairly high
me,
turnover for these sales reps too. So it's like, and that kind of is pretty normal. So sometimes it's like I think with Oroscoptics, we're probably on our 5th rep, so it's just
right.
it's kind of crazy. But it's like these young kids and they do sales and they're kind of going around and eventually they go on to something else, so that also happens.
Hannah says, once you put an order on a new Apples, how long do you have to pay off the machine? So if it takes 10 months to get the machine, will they give you 10 months to pay?
Yes.
Yes.
So
With a
you just put a deposit down and then pretty much you can pay however you're able to pay and however amount. Usually what happens is By the time we receive, we know your machine's coming in, we start to go through, and it's like we start at the top, right? So like and then we call you, say your machine's in, you have a balance of this much. If you can you pay it off? If no, then, then we go to the next person. And so it just kind of keeps going. The person that's like, yes, I can pay it all now, boom, your machine's out. So it just has to be paid up by the time it leaves the office, and that's pretty much it. Okay.
Beer. Holy cow, it's 7:30. When did that happen, guys? All right.
Enjoy your evening, everybody. See you next week.
Right.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.